Welcome, everybody, to the Liberty Report. I am your host, Alex Newman. It's a wonderful pleasure and honor and privilege to be with you today. We're so grateful to our friends at Patriot TV for broadcasting this program. We're also grateful to you, our viewers, our listeners. Thank you for all that you do for God and our country. Now, what's been going on around the world, the mass scale persecution of Christians is enormous. It's, in my opinion, one of the biggest stories happening anywhere in the world right now. And yet, if you're like most Americans, you haven't even heard about it because the fake media won't tell you about it. Joining us now to discuss this horrific mass crime, in many cases funded by our tax dollars, is the great investigative reporter Leo Hohmann. You can find him at leohohmann.com. His work is phenomenal. We actually publish a lot of what he does at our website as well, libertysentinel.org. And Leo's an investigative reporter. He's been doing this for a long time. He did an incredible book called Stealth Invasion about the Islamist invasion of the Western world through mass immigration. He's been writing about a lot of these things for decades. He and I both worked at WND for a time. His articles have appeared all over the place, Front Page Magazine, LifeSite News. He actually used to work for the mainstream media, which is cool. He's been interviewed by Laura Ingraham of Fox, all kinds of very well-known people. And he's joining us today to talk about his newest article, Islamists Driving Christians Out of Central Africa, Horrific Persecution. Leo, thanks for joining us. A big story that almost all the world media missed, 70 Christians beheaded in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Talk to us about it, and why is the media so carefully ignoring this story?
Yeah, it's been mostly crickets. There was a back page sort of story on the Fox News website. I don't know if that they covered it on the air at all. And very little others who really wanted to touch it. I'm not sure why, Alex. It wasn't a difficult story to report because all of the legwork had been done by Open Doors, which, as you know, is a nonprofit that tracks Christian persecution around the world. And every year, the top five, or if you look at even the top 10 countries in the world that are persecuting the Christian body of Christ the most, it's a combination of communist and Islamic governments. And then also some countries like the Democratic Republic of Congo, which is neither Islamist nor communist, but they have both an Islamic and a communist revolution going on at the same time. And these rebels, both Islamic and communist, have the Christians in their sights. You can understand why that would be, because the Christians tend to be some of the most hardworking, most successful, most entrepreneurial members of that society in the Democratic Republic of Congo. They pretty much mind their own business and work hard. And those are exactly the type of people that communist rebels and Islamic rebels see as a threat. We both know why that is, because Christians are onto them. They understand that our rights come from God Almighty, not from the government. And so these are the people that have been most targeted by both the communists and the Islamists. And unfortunately, a group got caught up in a web of attacks. I believe it happened on February 13th. Open Doors reported it 2 or 3 days later. And I picked it up. A few others picked it up. But as you said, not very many. What happened was you basically had 20 men and women who were ordered to come out of their houses by these Islamic rebels. They're affiliated with the Islamic State, ISIS. I told them to come out with their hands up and stay quiet. They abducted them and then later captured 50 more for a total of 70 and beheaded them in the most grotesque way, Alex. This is not an outlier. It's not like it's something that rarely happens. It happens often. They were already on high alert. In fact, Open Doors was saying before this attack happened, there was rumors going around that the Islamic group was stepping up their attacks.
Yeah. It's so horrific. And this has been going on across Central Africa for a long time.
Yes.
It was going on across North Africa before that. I mean, Muhammad and his armies swept through Northern Africa, butchering Christians. This has been going on for a very long, long time and presumably will continue. There's so many different things I want to ask you about, Leo, but I want to start with something that I think is even more significant than these isolated attacks, and that's the role of the U.S. government in all of this. I did a cover story for the New American Magazine many years ago about how the U.S. government was actually directly, in many cases, responsible for these mass persecutions, these mass executions of Christians. Iraq, Syria, the Ivory Coast, Egypt, everywhere you looked, the U.S. government was somehow involved with and facilitating persecution of Christians. Now we've got new information coming out of USAID that some of the money behind these groups was actually being extorted from the American taxpayer through USAID and others. Talk to us about what's been going on here.
Yeah, I recently filed an article about what's going on specifically in Nigeria, where USAID had funneled $832 million to the Nigerian government over the last 4 or 5 years, basically during the Biden administration. And the vast majority of that money, voila, ended up in the hands of Boko Haram, which is a offshoot of ISIS, Islamic terrorists. And they use that money for guns and training. And I wouldn't be surprised at all, Alex, if some of those guns that they buy with American dollars, they use some, of course, and then they sell others to their buddies in other countries like the Democratic Republic of Congo, where we were just talking about what happened there with 70 Christians being killed. So yeah, it's a vast spider web of guns and money, and most of the support is coming from the United States CIA, which has this little slush fund coming through U.S. aid, Alex, and it goes for things specified. For instance, in Nigeria, there was a politician who was describing how it works, and he said this $832 million was allocated for things like education and aid for dependent families, and it ends up being siphoned, the majority of it, off into these terrorist groups. And so the congressman they have, I guess you would call it, plausible deniability. They could say, oh, we allocated this money for education. Well, you either did it with a wink and a nod, knowing exactly what you were doing, or you have very poor oversight of how our money is being used for these foreign aid projects. And so either way, I think our congressmen are culpable. They're either inept and incompetent, or they're in on it and they're evil.
Yeah, there's probably a little bit of both, but it is amazing. They always make sure the aid gets to LGBT pride
Yep.
parades. They always make sure it gets to, promoting abortion. There's never any problem with that money being diverted into Christian missions. But when the money's supposed to go to something allegedly useful, it's amazing how it always turns up in places like this. And when you think about what our Congress has been doing, when you think about, I mean, even just these sex chats that just came out from the weirdos at the CIA and the NSA, these are people who hate Christians more than just about anybody else. So I suspect there's really a strong element of deliberateness here. But
Yeah, I think on the bureaucratic end, I definitely think I would lean towards that assumption as well, Alex. I don't know about the politicians, although some of them are certainly capable of such evil.
yeah. And Leo, you have also picked up, you've been one of the few voices out there that has picked up on this incredibly significant story that we're not supposed to talk about. And that is the mass importation of Muslims into the Western world, into the United States. Your book on this was actually hugely successful. I understand the establishment came after you tried to squelch that. So talk to us about that. What is stealth jihad? Why are Western governments facilitating this massive Islamic invasion into the Western world?
Yeah, I mean, from an Islamic point of view, this is what they call the hijra, the migration. And, other than committing, going on jihad and offering up your life as a martyr, the next most meritorious thing you can do in the eyes of Allah and the Quran is to travel to a non-Muslim land and try to convert non-Muslims to the faith. And so they exploit these refugee laws, these lax vetting processes that we have. It all goes back to the Refugee Act of 1980, by the way, signed by President Jimmy Carter, where we basically contract with the United Nations to take in refugees from around the world. And of course, we take in more refugees by far than all the other countries pretty much combined since that time, 1980. It's well into the millions now since 1980. And over half of them, especially in the last 10, 15 years, have come from Muslim nations. And so, yeah, we would not have an Ilhan Omar in the U.S. Congress were it not for this program. She came here as a child refugee from Somalia, like so many, and her entire district, the Cedar Riverside area of Minneapolis, is loaded up with Somali refugees, and that's how she gets reelected to Congress every 2 years. If this continues, we could look forward to more Muslim members of Congress. Donald Trump has put a freeze on the importation of refugees, just like he did in his first term. And the other part of my book that is really informational and shocking to a lot of people is that it's not just the government that is doing this, importing these people from countries that hate America and want to see America changed. But it's also these NGOs, nonprofits. Chief among them is the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops, who, as you may know, Alex, just sued the Trump administration a few days ago because he put this freeze on the importation of more refugees. You don't see these, or you don't hear these bishops complaining whatsoever about Christians being murdered and decapitated in places like the Democratic Republic of Congo. But boy, they will whine and complain and go to the media and shout from the rooftops when they see their dollars being cut off by the U.S. Department of State. This program runs through the State Department, which contracts with the Catholic bishops, Lutheran Social Services, Episcopal Migration Services, World Relief, which is an arm of the National Association of Evangelicals, and the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society. So like 6 out of the 10 NGOs that contract directly with the U.S. State Department to bring in these refugees are religious nonprofits, and they get paid, Alex, by the head for every refugee they bring in. That's more dollars for them.
Yeah, it's obscene, and this use of our federal tax dollars to do these things has got to stop. Leo, we're out of time in this segment, but thank you for your work. Thank you for shining the light on these things. People can follow your work and subscribe to your excellent newsletter at leohohmann.com. Where can they find you on social media?
Yes, and I also am actually more active on my Substack now than at leohohmann.com. So people can sign up for my Substack at leohohmann.substack.com. That's Hohmann, Hohmann. I'm also on Twitter at Leo Hohmann, and on Telegram, Leo Hohmann, author/journalist.
Excellent. Leo, thank you again for your work. Thank you for joining us today. We so appreciate it, and I hope we can talk to you again very soon.
Thank you, Alex.
Absolutely. God bless you. All right, folks, stay with us. We're going to be right back with more right after this quick break with a message from our sponsors.
Attention business owners and entrepreneurs. Patriot TV is launching a brand new TV series showcasing American-made products, and your business could be featured. Whether you sell your products online on Etsy or Shopify and dream of reaching millions of viewers on smart TVs like Samsung, Sony, TCL, and LG, or apps like Roku, Android, and Apple TV, this is your chance. We're searching for US-based businesses offering all types of products and services proudly made in the USA. If you've ever wanted to showcase your products on TV like QVC or the Home Shopping Network, now's your opportunity. Support our American economy, grow your business, and be seen by loyal Patriot viewers across the country. Know someone with a business or have a business yourself? Don't miss out. Contact us at supportingpatriots.com today. Be a guest on this new exciting TV series. Let's put your American-made products in the spotlight.
I couldn't give anything a higher endorsement.
I would be remiss had I not include Cardio Miracle on my very short list of secrets.
It's the real deal. It's a real product. It's not another supplement.
I'm operating about 6 to 8 hours, and I've noticed that being on this Cardio Miracle has made a huge difference.
Since I started taking Cardio Miracle, about 8 months into it, the benefits have been fantastic.
You know, if I get hungry, then I just have a Cardio Miracle.
Not only is it safe, but it's necessary to take Cardio Miracle to stay well.
This let me sleep. It's showing up more energy, more get up and go, and it's all because of what this company does.
For me as a doctor, Cardio Miracle is a staple.
Cardio Miracle to me is hope in a glass. To try Cardio Miracle for yourself and get a special fan discount, go to the host page right now and click the link for Cardio Miracle.
Welcome back here to the Liberty Report. I'm your host, Alex Newman. Thanks for joining us on Patriot TV. Folks, before we get to our next guest, who's really an expert like no other on cryptocurrency and what is happening in the technology space, stuff that we need to understand, I do want to tell you to get over to patriot.tv/Newman. What you're going to find there is a big list of our sponsors. You're going to get amazing discounts if you go through there, including 10% off on Cardio Miracle. Also, you can get a 10% discount when you become a Patriot Defender member. When you subscribe to what we're doing, you can support us financially and get access to exclusive content you're not going to find anywhere else. So we really appreciate all that you do. We appreciate your support in keeping this operation going, bringing the truth to the American people. So get over there, patriot.tv/Newman. Use that promo code Newman and great discounts and exclusive content. Now, folks, the technology developments that are happening right now, they're happening so fast and they're so important. They're going to change life for every one of us, unless we choose to go live under a rock or in the Amazon rainforest. And our next guest was recommended to me very highly by a mutual friend who understands these things better than just about anybody I know. He's the author of a couple of newsletters, The Free Man's Perspective and Parallel Society. He's been involved in cryptography projects going back to the 1990s. He wrote the first protocols for law in cyberspace. He co-authored a foundational paper on private digital economies, and he co-founded the Crypto Hippie Anonymous VPN. He also wrote the highly influential A Lodging of Wayfaring Men, as well as Production versus Plunder, The Breaking Dawn, and a lot of other books. He's done over 50 books, hundreds of articles for construction and engineering. He's got an incredible biography. But with that out of the way, Paul, welcome to the program. Paul Rosenberg, I really appreciate you joining us today. I want to start with what's going on in cyberspace, especially what's going on with the cryptocurrencies. Donald Trump has now issued an order banning central bank digital currencies, but it looks like Bitcoin and some of these other coins, the Tether and the stable coins, are playing a bigger and bigger role in the economy. What's going on here? What do people need to know?
Well, first of all, you need to understand that you should not be running after unicorns in this area. Do not jump after every new crypto that is hyped. There are just simply too many of them, and most of them are worthless. So don't get pulled in. Buy Bitcoin if you want to get involved. Buy it, put it in a good wallet, and keep it yourself, and just sit on it for the next 5 years. You will be ever so happy that you did. Bitcoin is, it's not a Wall Street thing. Bitcoin was created by cypherpunks who were cryptography advocates. They were hardcore libertarians. These are not people that was trying to make a new type of currency that they can get rich on. They were making freedom money. So Bitcoin is that. Do not think of it as a stock. Do not think of it as, some kind of bond or something like that. Yes, I know Wall Street is all going into it. I mean, once, the price goes from $10 a coin to $100,000 a coin, well, that's what happens. We could have worse problems. But don't think of it as that. Think of it as a new world that's taking shape. Bitcoin is decentralized. There is no gatekeeper. There is no boss. There is no on-off switch. There is no reset switch. There is nothing like that. It's a completely different thing. And it is the best method of moving wealth through time that has ever existed. As much as I like gold, I mean, I like gold. Gold's great. But Bitcoin's better. If you want to move wealth for your grandchildren or whatever, Bitcoin is better. When you get to the other coins, Ethereum and some of the ones that are like it are a nice tool. They're an interesting tool to automate contracts, to do things like that. I don't see them as a store of value. There are some other currencies that are excellent. Monero is wonderful for privacy. I highly recommend it. There are others that are good for certain things. The only real serious store of value is Bitcoin, and unless you really know what you're doing, just buy some Bitcoin and sit on it.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And, a little full disclosure here. I started buying Bitcoin back like 14 years ago, back when it was less than $1 a coin. And then Mt. Gox collapsed. I had a whole bunch of them there. I didn't think much of it because the price was still real low. Today, I did some math. Those would have been worth hundreds of millions of dollars. So, the Lord gives, the Lord takes away. I still have a little bit in my portfolio. I want to talk to you a little bit about what is going on with digital economies. That's a term that I think for most of us is not even on our radar, and yet you're an expert on this. Every once in a while, we hear people like Kristalina Georgieva at the IMF talking about digital economy being the big winner. What do you mean when you talk about digital economy, and what are these, globalists and politicians and political leaders talking about when they talk about digital economy?
Okay, good question, important distinction. When I talk about digital economy, I'm talking about people who are using Monero, people who are using Bitcoin and using it well, people who are using the Lightning network that goes on top of Bitcoin that makes it really easy to buy a cup of coffee or things like that. That's what I think of as the digital economy, and the more the better, because it's a layer of incorruptible money in human life. You can't play games with Bitcoin. 21 million will exist ever, and 19.8, 19.9, I don't know the exact number, exist already. So this is not money that can be played with. It's honest. It's a layer of honest money in the world. And the more you can use Bitcoin for coffee, for buying, a piano, buying a house, whatever, use it, because it keeps the world, that part of the world is incorruptible. Now, in terms of the states, when they're talking about digital money, usually they're talking about digital dollars, digital euros, things that don't exist as physical money, but are accounting units on international ledgers. That's, of course, a very, very different thing. And usually that's what they're talking about. Sometimes they try to talk about Bitcoin or other cryptos. The honest truth is, and I'm not trying to just slash away, they usually have no clue what they're talking about. They really don't know. They're giving talking points that somebody's giving to them. Their assistants have talked to somebody who told them to say something. They usually have no clue what they're talking about. There's a U.S. senator from Wyoming who knows what she's talking about. There's not too many.
Interesting. Oh man, there's so many things I want to ask you about, Paul. I think we're going to have to do another segment at some point because we've only got about 5 minutes left. I definitely want to get something in about the singularity, but I got to ask you first. There seems to be a push by the global elitists, for lack of a better term, to kind of use all this digital infrastructure to, maybe enslave humanity is too strong a term, but bring us under control, surveil us, manipulate us. And they got U.S. Central bank digital currency. They've got the international blockchain ledger that the Bank for International Settlements is building, a digital ID and all of that. But then on the other hand, we have, people like yourself, people who are more liberty-minded, people who are experts in this space, who are developing tools to help keep people free. Who's going to win? Is this a perpetual battle for, privacy and freedom versus tyranny and control?
Yeah, it is until humanity upgrades a bit more. People are easy to scare, and when humans are frightened, they do stupid things. It's just the way it works. You scare them, and you give them, and you say, "Go over here, you'll be safe," and they run over there. Now, we've all been guilty of it, so I'm not trying to throw stones at anybody, but we've got a problem with that. And people are suckers for free stuff. Ooh, I can get this for free. It's a free account. Well, I gotta have it. My buddy Jim is on there. I gotta be there. As long as, these are the oldest scams in the world. Come here, little boy, I've got candy in the car. It's free. Your parents said it was okay. It's the same thing. That's what Facebook is. I don't want to go through all the details, but it's immensely unhealthy, particularly for teenagers, and particularly teenage girls, immensely unhealthy. It's a horrible addiction. Americans have pretty much given up cigarettes, but boy, they took up Facebook. So it's a problem. It's a very serious problem. But that said, manias don't last forever, and People are starting to get over it. There are books being written on how bad social media is for you psychologically. People are reading them. They're starting to figure out how to deal with their teenagers on social media. So we're making progress. It's just, humans have certain vulnerabilities, and once people can get rich taking advantage of human vulnerabilities, they tend to go nuts, and then they go too far, and then things come back.
Yeah, you're so right. Paul, we're down to just a couple minutes left. We're going to probably have to do a whole segment on this sometime if you're willing. But Elon Musk just tweeted out just a few days ago that we are on the event horizon of the singularity. I think most Americans saw that and said, huh? Now, I've heard a little bit about the singularity. I've followed the work of Ray Kurzweil and some of these others. But what does he mean? What are the implications of this? Should we be, speaking of fear, should we be scared?
Well, what they're talking about is a point where technology gets to the point where we can't even imagine what it's going to do next. And it's, like Skynet in the Terminator movie or something like that, where just things we can't even imagine what's on the other side of the horizon. Honestly, I don't believe in it. I've heard this talk for long years. I've actually met some of the people involved, and look, technology is going to keep increasing, pretty much forever. It doesn't have to be any particular kind of technology. This computer stuff and the whiz bang stuff you can have on your smartphone may not continue forever, but technology is going to be fine. I don't see the singularity where life is completely different on the other side. I think it's hopeful dreaming, usually from people who are afraid to die.
Huh. Interesting. So this kind of converges there with the transhumanist idea that we're going to upload our consciousness onto a computer system and live forever and be as gods, as Yuval Noah Harari likes to say. Man, it's we need to have a much deeper discussion, Paul. This has been such a pleasure. What's the best way to follow your work? You've got freemanperspective.com. You do a couple of excellent newsletters. What's the best way for people to follow you?
Just as you said, freemansperspective.com. We have a newsletter that will only continue through the end of 2025. After that, we're going to close it down. It's just time. And after that, it'll be interesting to see. But Freeman's Perspective will be up forever, and you can find lots and lots of stuff there.
Excellent. Well, we so appreciate it, Paul. Thank you very much for shedding light on these issues. I hope we can talk to you again very soon, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
You too.
Thanks so much. All righty, folks, we are out of time today on the Liberty Report, but we so appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate you for all that you do for liberty, for God, for country, for freedom. We got to keep on keeping on, folks. Freedom's not going to defend itself. So share this broadcast out with others. Tune in for much more and stay tuned right here on Patriot TV. Until next time, thanks for watching, and God bless you all.